The average person takes 23 minutes to drop into a deep flow. And this is where, again, in this deep flow is where your productivity is going to soar. On average, the average person only gets about 2 hours of real work in a day. And everything else is distraction after distraction after distraction. Whereas the brain has developed to be able to do 90 minute to 2 hour intervals of this deep focus work. But it takes 23 minutes to drop into there. And for every distraction, you reset.
Welcome to the Women Choosing Growth podcast, where we bring you practical advice and guidance on how to grow your business and achieve success in your entrepreneurial journey. We feature inspiring stories of success, challenges of growth, and lessons learned from women entrepreneurs, industry experts, and thought leaders who have been through the growing pains inevitable as an entrepreneur. Whether you are just getting started or are looking to scale up your business, our show is designed to provide you with the tools, resources, and community you need to grow your business. Join your host, Tina, a lifelong entrepreneur and business growth advisor, as we explore topics such as marketing, sales, finance, leadership, and personal growth, all tailored specifically to the needs of women entrepreneurs. So if you're ready to grow your business faster and smarter, and learn from the experiences of those who have traveled the growth path before you, then this podcast is for you. Thanks for tuning in, and let's get started.
Welcome back to another episode of Women Choosing Growth. I am your host, Tina Sue, and today we have with us two amazing and dynamic women who have created a beautiful company called Screws and Stilettos. Courtney Hurley and Kelly Evans are the visionary and co-founders behind this company. They're redefining the way marketing leaders approach marketing with their Market Like a CMO course. Not only that are they experts in marketing, but before they even dive into a client's marketing desires and outcomes, it's really about simplifying their life, getting really super clear on their vision, both personally and professionally. So today we're actually diving in deep on both the flow side of a personal goals, how to get really intentional about your workday, your purpose in life, your goals, and then how that translates into marketing for any type of business. And the name Screws and Stilettos, you'll see, really ties into that. Screws being a foundation, stilettos being the pretty side that people see both in your personal life and then also in your business. So we're actually going to divide this long chat with these two amazing and dynamic women into two different episodes. The first being on flow and really organizing your purpose and your goals on your personal side and getting into a flow state so that you can be super efficient in your life. And then diving into how that translates into the marketing side, and being simple is the way to go. We do not need all the tools and resources in your business. You don't have to be on all the social medias. You don't need 20 different platforms. And they're going to dive in and tell you exactly how you can be most efficient with that side of things as well. So stay tuned. We have a lot to share between these two episodes. Welcome back to another episode, ladies. We have the dynamic duo of Courtney Hurley and Kelly Evans here with us today. They are the founders of Screws and Stilettos and have so much expertise to share with us today. We're going to have a lot of fun and share a ton of impactful tips for you regardless of your business or industry. But before we dive into regaining control, simplifying your marketing strategies, we need to make sure that you tap into your purpose and focus. Welcome to the show, ladies.
Thank
you very much for having us.
Now, I think everyone who just heard the name of your business is wondering how that name came about. Your sisters, obviously. So let's go back a little bit in time. And how did the two of you go from sisterhood to being business partners together? And where did this name come from?
So I'll jump into a little bit of background, actually. So Kelly's the older one. It's funny, we were talking about this a little bit earlier, but
he's the taller one.
Yeah, I was actually born blind, and my first memory ever is Kelly bringing me a handful of weeds to a bedside table after I had had an eye surgery when I was younger. And honestly, we've just kind of been inseparable. We are 2 of 9, but we've just clicked our entire lives in a way that we haven't with the others. I mean, we're all very close overall, but Kelly and I just more or less, what do we used to say? We were twins, but I was frozen for a year and a
So
half.
we used to tell people this before there was even such a thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think it really kicked off when I was in kindergarten and I went to first grade. I was in the principal's office for beating a boy up on the bus because he was bullying Courtney. And that's really kind of where it started off. And that was the only time I ever went to the principal's office. But he would trip her every single day she got on the bus. And so I had enough.
But so when I was 14, Kelly was 15, we started working together at just a gourmet sandwich shop, ended up taking over, leading that for the owner for years. And that's kind of where we just realized how much we, not only just friendship wise, because the reality is Kelly is my best friend in the world, always has been. But beyond that, on a business side, we saw from the beginning that we leaned into each other's strengths, and we're able to help out each other and kind of move everything forward with that. And since about 14 and 15, other than about 4 years when I was at an agency and Kelly was over at TripAdvisor, we have worked together ever since then. So at this point, we are pushing 20 something years. I'm hard with math, but
Oh, yeah.
We don't need to age ourselves.
Yeah. I still can't figure out how old I am. It's fine.
We don't need to know.
My girls say, Mom, back in the 90s. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Literally was in high school.
You mean yesterday? What are you talking about?
Yes, it seems like yesterday. So you've been working together. You work off of your strengths personally and professionally. How did Screws and Stilettos come about?
So in one capacity or another, when we were working together, we did things from building websites and building businesses and designing weddings to building massive custom fabrications for events. At one point, Courtney built a ski ramp for the X Games in Fenway Park. And I climbed up the thing and I was scared out of my mind. So we kind of have both are very hands-on physically, but also just in all the work we do. So Screws and Stilettos came about because no matter what we were doing, there's two sides of everything. If you have a foundation that doesn't work and you just try to slap something on it, you just have lipstick on a pig. It's still a pig. You have to fix the back end, the screws of whatever it is, whether it's your business, whether it's your relationships, whether it's your website. If you don't have the foundation or screws of anything, then it doesn't matter how beautiful the front end is because you are missing the entire core. And so then the screws is really the back end infrastructure and the core of anything. And then the stilettos is the pretty front end where everybody sees and you focus so much attention and time on, but that means nothing if you don't have the back end. So Screws and Stilettos is really just the yin and yang of the two. And really, between Courtney and I, sometimes on the screw and sometimes on the stiletto and vice versa. More often than not, I think she's more the stiletto than I am, but it's fine.
And when did Screws and Stilettos come about? Like, when did this business formally become?
So, I mean, informally, I let's say it was 2006. No, 2006 was when I started with alumni, and she was school. But then, in terms of really deciding to go into it, I say 2016 probably.
Yeah.
But we always consulted and did small things for people along the way, or really were an entrepreneur spirit, but not just for ourselves, like for people. Like Courtney built Dad's insurance company website when you were like 18, and beautiful.
So the talent is there from all things marketing, but I know you have a different spin on more so than just. I mean, there's a ton of marketing agencies out there, and you came from agency world, right, Courtney? You had some experience in agency world, and you do things differently, which we're excited to dive into today. But before we dive into that, Courtney, I know you have a real focus on before entrepreneurs or individuals really get into, like, again, it's kind of on that screws and stilettos, right? The foundational piece, if I'm understanding
Mhm.
the concept right, is to really hone in on the purpose and getting back to basics before making all the shiny, fancy, like, marketing ideas that can come flying into any entrepreneur's day to day. So, do you want to share a little bit about what that is that you work with entrepreneurs on?
Absolutely. So, something I work with on is how to tap into peak performance, and more specifically, the flow state as well as like your innate inner strengths, and then harnessing that to develop your purpose. And this purpose is your all guiding purpose beyond your business, but also in your work life, your personal life, your health, everything. So. Um, I'll start you back a little bit at the beginning. I'll give some examples too, but
Mhm.
really what, for those that don't know, the flow state is essentially, it's an optimal state of consciousness. But what that means is basically it's this magical state where time flies, creativity flows, and your productivity soars. And what we see when people are able to tap into that flow state is up to a 500% increase in their productivity. Now, this happens as a result of very specific things that happen within the brain and the body. So there is a mix of brainwave patterns, neurochemicals, and neural shifts that take into that are leveraged when you dive into flow. And so, really, what you're creating is this fully immersed experience where you're really performing at your best.
Mhm.
So, I can get a little bit of what happens from the neurological perspective is that when you go into flow, which is, if you want to look at it as deep focus, where you feel like literally time is flying by and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe it's been 30 minutes or an hour. Like, but holy crap, that felt great to get it through. Sorry for the
Mhm.
language.
Oh, we're good
The
here.
So what is happening is you are getting into in flow. You have alpha and theta waves that help you create this relaxed but alert state where the alpha waves are what help you keep a calm focus, and the theta waves are more for your creativity and insight. Now, what this helps to reduce is it also enables self doubt. And the way this happens is your beta waves, which are essentially like your self critic, your self conscious components of your brain, those things get reduced. So that way, there's a shift in your prefrontal cortex to something called transient hypofrontality. And so your self monitoring and your impulse control temporarily quiets down. Now, when this happens and you silence your inner critic, that's when you're actually allowed to fully immerse into the task at hand and enhance your creativity. And when you do this too, you're also able to, with that creativity, think outside of the box. So come up with solutions that you otherwise would not have thought of, because it's removing some of those boundaries of thought when you're
Sure.
able to enter into that flow state.
Mhm.
So in flow, when you are in that deep flow state, there's four main chemicals that are released in the brain that trigger it. And that's dopamine, norepinephrine, endorphins, and anandamide. And what that happens, so the dopamine helps with the focus and pattern recognition. The norepinephrine helps with concentration and memory. Then you have endorphins, which we all know from workouts, kind of creates that euphoria feeling and reduces pain. And then the anandamide, which is really, it's a mood booster and creativity and lateral thinking booster. Following that, you get into serotonin release at the post flow state. And that's where you get that overall sense of satisfaction and well being. So, what really happens is the average person takes 23 minutes to drop into a deep flow. And this is where, again, in this deep flow is where your productivity is going to soar. On average, the average person only gets about 2 hours of real work in a day. And everything
Mhm.
else is distraction after distraction after distraction. Whereas the brain has developed to be able to do 90 minute to 2 hour intervals of this deep focus work. But it takes 23 minutes to drop into there. And for every distraction, you reset. So a lot of what we go through and teach people is how to leverage their time, leverage their calendars, distraction eliminating tactics to be able to make space for that deep focus and that flow. So they can increase their productivity for their business. They can 5x the amount that they're getting done in the day. And for some, like me, I've been able to reduce my work days down to I end my day between 3:30 and 4 every day. No longer do I work till 5:30. I have more time for my family. And the ultimate goal is that you really want to learn to be able to be really present for your work when you're working and present for your family and your friends or whatever those other high value activities are that mean the most to you when not.
Mm-hmm. That sounds great. I know I can relate to everything that you said because there's days when my calendar has a meeting and then a 30-minute and then a meeting and maybe a 45-minute and then maybe another meeting. And I know for a fact that I don't I can't start most of my projects that are on my list because 30 minutes isn't enough for me to dive in, get started, and then stop thinking about that thing for the next meeting that is completely unrelated.
Mm-hmm.
So sounds like you not only help educate on the flow, but also have tools and suggestions on how people can be
Sure.
even set up to be able to get into flow.
Yeah. So, for instance, with you and your meetings, we only take meetings on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And the reason being is that you are in a totally different state in a meeting than you are when you're in deep flow.
Mm-hmm.
And in order for you to shift between the two, not only is it the 23 minutes that your brain needs to dive into that deep focus, but it's also the cognitive space and time that you spent mentally preparing for that meeting, physically preparing for that meeting, whatever it required, and also the recovery time after that, kind of decompressing from that meeting. So for one thing that we teach within our workshops so with our marketing, we do 8-week workshops where we help people grow their business, but we front load it with all of the flow state stuff, how to increase that productivity, how to get your purpose down, and how to tap into your inner strengths, innate strengths. So with that, one of the recommendations that we always have for people is stack your meetings and only accept them on a certain few days of the week. And the reason being is that if you can back them back and start back to back them and start where you want to end your day, then you can leave. For us, for instance, we only accept Tuesday and Thursday meetings. Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays are for us to be able to get heavy work done.
Mm-hmm.
And we can spend those entire days in a deep flow state with obviously some recovery mixed in, some breaks mixed in, but we are able to then be so much more efficient and effective with our time. And we are actually able to do a lot more for people because we are able to tap into that creativity. We're able to tap into that calm focus. We're able to think outside of the box. We also talk a lot about limitations and distractions. So for instance, we use inbox when ready on our inboxes. So you actually don't see all of our emails every time we open our inboxes. It's a blank screen, but you can search for something and then you can hit show your inbox, and I've put limits on it to 2 times a day. And then I schedule into my day when I'm actually going to do my email checks and responses. So that way you're removing the need to incessantly feel like you need to check your inbox. You need to check your inbox. A lot of what we work through with people is getting them set up with the communication for their clients or their customers. So that way customers and clients understand this process and that it's all in an effort to be able to provide a better result. Now, something that is a foundational aspect of this, and in order to really tap into the flow and get that release, and even start triggering that release to happen sooner than the 23 minutes. So for instance, for me, I can tap into flow within a few minutes. And it's because I've set up these behavioral triggers and I've essentially conditioned my own brain using a certain sound and headphones to now the moment I hear that, my body knows that I need to go into deep flow, and it actually starts to release those neurochemicals as a result. So something that we tap into to help people be able to stay on track and stay focused is something called a power down ritual. Because it's not only just about stacking your meetings on meeting days, but it's also about being able to get focused on what you actually need to be doing. So a power down ritual helps to determine what are your 1 to 3 priorities for the coming up day, the following day. It helps to give you an idea of like what you did well that day, what you could have worked on, what you predetermine what your weekly goals are. So really it's a daily check of where you're at and how are you able to move the needle towards your long-term and short-term goals. And you got to look at it from the perspective of if I only have 90 minutes to do one thing to move my business forward tomorrow, what is going to be the most impactful thing I could do in that 90 minutes? And that's really what this power down ritual helps you achieve, is that those tasks that you're going to do for those 90 minutes to move that business forward. And you block off that time and you go into that deep focus and you hammer that out. And on the other end of that is that serotonin boost to make you feel great about the success you just had and make you want to do it again. And then that promotes that cycle for you.
Hey, incredible women entrepreneurs, it's Tina Sue here. I know you're juggling a lot, growing your business, managing family time, and trying to find balance. Deep down, you know you're capable of so much more, but maybe fear or uncertainty is holding you back from achieving that dream business, that dream life that you deserve. That's why I created the Dream Big, Plan Bigger guide, a game changer for your business growth. This isn't just another goal-setting document. It's your personal roadmap to achieving the impossible. Imagine having a clear vision of your biggest dreams, breaking through the barriers that hold you back, and reigniting that passion that fuels your journey. This guide is your roadmap to doing just that without compromising your family time or your personal priorities. You deserve to see your business thrive and still have time for what you love. Let's take this journey together. Download your free Dream Big, Plan Bigger workbook now at tina-sue.com and start making those dreams a reality. Now, let's get back to the show. Yes, I think people listening can definitely relate to the opposite side of that, of not being as focused and intentional as you're describing, but that boost and like, man, I got a lot of stuff today, a lot of stuff done today, when they can focus and put their head down and get those kind of core things out on a timely basis, and how great
it's an amazing like natural high. It's amazing to just suddenly be like, I feel so good right now. But on the other hand, how low it is when you like, I spent 20 hours doing something and I feel like I've accomplished nothing. It's a really defeating feeling too. So not only is it good for your productivity and it's good for your soul. It makes you feel better. It makes you better for yourself and for other people.
Yes, especially like on the Thursday and you're like, what have I really done to this week? And didn't get those, 3 major things.
Or when your kid walks in and says, Mommy, can you tuck me in for bed? Or Mommy, can you read me? Can you help me with this? And you don't have an eye. You're willing and happy and wanting to help them, and not having to sit there and say, oh, I can't do this right now. Like, even in the back of your mind, you don't want to feel that way. So it makes me feel a lot better to just have the like carefree freedom to just be able to be there and be present.
Yeah.
Yes. Be present.
So, and with that,
and head up. Go ahead.
We also talk a lot about so the same chemical reaction that happens in your brain when you dive into deep focus also are the same chemical reactions that are released when you have an intense workout. So we even talk about just splitting your days and what you need to prioritize first thing in the morning. So that alpha theta state that is triggered by flow is actually the state you wake up in. So within the first 90 seconds of waking up, you want to dive into your work, because that's going to be the easiest for your brain to transition into that deep, heavy state of focus. And then what a lot of people do is they work out first thing in the morning. And then what they run into is they don't really feel like doing work. They're having a hard time focusing after that, because essentially you've released those flow chemicals already. And now your body and your brain needs time to replenish those. So that's what the almost anti-focus that happens after workout. So something we always recommend is pushing that workout to the afternoon and then holding yourself to it. Schedule it like you would a meeting. Put it on the calendar and do it. Treat it like a meeting. And so something to bring it all kind of full circle and all encompassing that we help people do during the process as well is we help them tap into not just their innate strengths. And I'm not talking about what are you good at? What skills have you learned? Like if you look at me, I'm good at marketing, but that's because I've been marketing for 19 years. It is a skill I've learned. But if I go back to the child I was, what came easy to me? I had a photographic memory for numbers, and no one could beat me in memory, the game of memory. And I also, if I looked at the activities that I like to do when I'd be by myself, I would go to my parents' living room and they'd have these little china trinket type things. And I would pretend to present them and teach my fake audience about them. And so what that actually tells me is that I would do a great job with presenting things to people and helping train people on things and teach people things, which is why I am where I am today. But am I good at marketing? Absolutely. I've spent 19 years learning how to be good at marketing, but that's not my innate strength. So
she's not just good. There's certain things like SEO and ads. Courtney's a savant. There is nobody that does it better. And trust me, if people come in, they're like, hey, yeah, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, yeah, great. Well, Courtney's going to carry most of it, because if anybody else, including myself, do it, they're going to get B plus, A minus. It's great effort, but no, Courtney's going to give an A plus and blow it out of the water. There's something in her that she's got that. So it's also about what she's good
at. Being humble.
Well, so we take those innate strengths that you've now determined, and what we help people determine from there is what their massively transformative purpose is. And it's actually, we're in a workshop earlier today, and I'll give you an example of this one person. So we were talking about massively transformative purpose. And when we're talking about that, we start with, what are the things in the world that get you fired up? What pisses you off? What gets you really working? And then we start to take a look at okay, so from those things, what is that one thing on your deathbed, more or less, that you'd be so proud of having built or done? And so, for instance, I'm going to give you the exact example from one of our workshop attendees this morning. So he initially said, my purpose right now is to grow my business. And I said, let's get deeper than that. Let's talk about what really bothers you. And he was like, what bothers me is bullies. And he's like, if I get really fired up, I'm talking about bullies. I'm talking about people that are jerks, dishonest people. And we're like, okay, now we're getting somewhere. And ultimately, he is like, what drives me nuts is when I see people in the business space that are just out there to deceive people. And I just think that there should be empathy and kindness involved, and there's a way to do this all the right way. And ultimately, that is his purpose. That's what he wants in life. And it was helping him to discern that. And then from there, we talked through what on your deathbed would you be proud of? And first he said, I would be proud to be able to look at my family and say, we transcended from the generational, the poverty that my family was in, and I became the first successful one in the family. And I was like, let's go deeper than that. How did you become successful? What is that thing that you could imagine? And it was ultimately came down to is that I built this system of mentoring people on how to run businesses with empathy and kindness and consideration and doing it the honest way. And that ultimately is his purpose. And that transcends beyond just now the direction for his business, but it's also how he's going to be looking at his relationships in his world and how he's going to look at his health. Am I emulating that type of persona that I want to teach people. And it was really eye-opening for him, and it was amazing to see how like lit up he was and excited he was. And the best part about that is when he first came to us before the workshop started, he had this opportunity for another company, a competitor of his, to join forces with him. And after working through this session today, he was like, a light bulb went off basically. And he goes, this guy is the epitome of what I despise. He is dishonest. He's pushy. He's a bully. And he's bullying me into this. And I said, well, then does that align with your purpose? And he was like, I cannot thank you guys enough. I was about to make the worst business decision, and I would have been miserable moving forward. And that's really kind of what we also help people to do, is get that long-term purpose. And this is beyond your business. This is your life purpose nailed down. So then everything after that is a decision you make based on whether or not that aligns. And from there, we help them then build their 10-year, their 5-year, their 1-year plan of how they're going to get that. And so for him, for example, he is an audio company. But so his 1-year plan is now, if he wants to, in 10 years, be on stage mentoring people on how to build these honest, kind, empathetic businesses, then in 5 years, he needs to have a certain number of people under his mentorship. So in the next year, he's going to leverage his audio company to start finding customers within it that are his ideal audience that he can then mentor. So he can start working towards that. And it was a shift that was a completely unexpected shift, but he's now tapping into his strengths and his ultimate purpose, and something that he's going to feel proud about. And he was like, I can't wait to go to sleep tonight to get up and work and do my wake up and flow and be able to start on this. And it was not only the best feeling for us, but it's so great to see someone like light up that way and really feel like he, for the first time, has true direction. And that's really what we hope for with this, is giving them that purpose and the direction, and then equipping them with the tools to be able to dive in and focus and get that result.
I wonder how, because this is amazing, and I see how impactful it is, right? Because that gentleman could have made that decision, or even if he didn't decide to merge, so many people, business owners, entrepreneurs, whatever you call yourself, are like head down. There's so much noise and so much to do in the day to day. We just like got to get it done, and don't pick our heads up to really think like, yeah, it's nice, but am I doing my purpose? Right. So I think what you just said was so great, that people really need to think through that. And your workshop could definitely help. So it's amazing how much transformation that gentleman had in such a short period of time.
What was the coolest thing about it was go ahead.
You can go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, what was the coolest thing about it was when we first met about a month ago, and we weren't planning to do the workshop. He wasn't part of the workshop. It was a separate consulting. And it was really to help do this merge and business migration and whatnot. And then we talked about the workshop points, and he really wanted to get into the flow world. So when he joined, 3 weeks in, it was like everything we would have helped him with, everything he wanted us to help him with was completely moot, and it would have been a waste of time. It would have driven him in the wrong direction. We didn't know that yet because we didn't know this side of him, and we didn't know really what his goals were and what his human was. And so today was like really not only just amazing for him, but also saying, gosh, I'm so glad we didn't do that work for you, because it wouldn't have been right for you. And then nobody would have known that until we would have never known, but you would figure out a long time from now. And it was just not worth it. It wasn't worth the time, stress, the money, the energy. It just wasn't the right fit. But it's hard sometimes to see that. And it's definitely hard for us to know that when we don't know the inner workings of people. So that was one of the best things, was to really peel back the onion today and say, wow, that was really not going to be the best decision for you or your business. And I'm glad we didn't do it.
Mm-hmm. So my question for you ladies is, how did this flow come about? This, I don't believe, maybe it hasn't been part of the business since day one. So there must have been something transformational personally or professionally where you wanted to help more people with this. How did this start?
So it was really me. And Courtney speaking here. And really, it came down to we've been doing the consulting side for years and we love it. And one of the things that we love about it is similar to what happened today is we often will have people come to us and say, hey, my ads aren't really working, that type of thing. But then we look at what's going on behind the scenes. We're like, God, your SEO is a mess. You're not even showing up in the search engines. Your landing pages are on a totally different domain than your website. Like your ads aren't working because you don't have the base infrastructure in place. And really
You're throwing your money into a black hole. What you need to do is stop spending it.
So oftentimes we'll tell people, stop spending, get your infrastructure back in place, and then we'll turn it back on. And what we've seen is like for one of our clients, the exact same ads, she had a 3.75 ROI, which isn't bad, on her ads when she first came to us. And we said, pause, we need to redo all of your SEO. Let's get it back up. Let's train you guys on how to maintain it. Let's train you on how to run your ads. We relaunched the exact same campaigns and our ROI increased to over 11 from a 3.75. And it's the same ads. We just now had the right infrastructure in place, the right setup, the right tracking optimizations, and the right automation for it to actually optimize towards.
I mean, they were buying ads against their own brand when their competitors were showing up in the search results and not them. Their competitors were showing up for their name because they didn't have their SEO solid enough to show up for their own brand name. So they were buying their brand name while their competitors were showing up for free above it.
Mm-hmm. It sounds to me like that was a perfect Screws and Stilettos moment where take the shoes off. Let's go back to the basics. Get everything nailed down.
We did a PowerPoint presentation and the first thing we said, we did a black hole image and we said, and then a thing came up and said, stop spending. They're like, what? You're literally coming hired to do ads. And we're like, stop now. And we ended up working hand in hand for about a year and a half. We did their system was a green screen, like in a room. Like they had, everything was brought online. They had agencies that had bought, like in these contracts, they not even bought, they held hostage. Like they didn't own their own domain anymore. They didn't own any of their infrastructure. And so it was literally just trying to pull back everything in so they actually own their own. And then to get the team internally in the point that they could just do it. And then like shake hands and say best wishes. And we got a bunch of wine glasses sent to us, and the owner sent my kids Make Way for Ducklings book, and like every once in a while we hear from them, and that's what we want. We want to get people back where they need to be incredibly successful, and then walk away and say, let us know if you need something in the future, but otherwise, good luck.
Yeah. So with that, really where the flow aspect came in is we love being able to help people, but I started there was limited time. We had meetings all over the place. And I was like, there's gotta be a better way to do this. So I started diving into, it was about a year of diving into different productivity things. And then I fell into the neuroscience circuit and really dove down that and started seeing the massive impact for me. And it wasn't just on the business side, but also I'm a mom of a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. And I'm the kind of person that I had both my kids at home with me while I was working full time until they were 18 months old. I was the queen of multitasking in my own world. And I had pride in that, but I didn't realize how inefficient I was until I started opening up my eyes to the neuroscience, the distractions, what happens in all these states. And I started realizing that even certain things like saying at the end of the night to my husband, like I'm touched out right now. I don't even really want to have a conversation. It had nothing to do with the kids and being touched out. It was the fact that I was just constantly on edge and didn't realize it. I was constantly chasing the clock. I constantly had too many things going on and wasn't feeling productive enough because I'd have a meeting and then I'd have to do a kid thing and then a meeting and then now I have 40 minutes. Can I get something done? And I didn't realize how much it was actually impacting my personal life until I made this shift and I started going down the neuroscience path. And then I honestly fell so in love with it. I was like, this is the missing component, because what we do so much is we teach people the marketing tactics and how to do it. But if you're the average person in the average environment, there are just distractions everywhere, and it's so easy to burn out. And I didn't even realize in my own life how I was burning out. So the difference for us is it's not just about teaching them the marketing tactics. That's only 50% of it. It's how can we do this in an effective way, more efficiently, and avoiding burnout. And that way we can be more present for all aspects of our life. And that's really what it came down to. Is I was like, this isn't just for me anymore. This is for all of the other people that we want to help. And it became beyond like an efficiency thing for us, and to be able to improve my relationships with my husband and my children, and also my business. But it became, oh my God, everyone else needs to be able to, all these entrepreneurs that are overwhelmed and feeling like they're on the verge of burning out, and that they're going to one day maybe give up on their business because it's just too many components and it'd be easier to go work for someone else. Like, it is possible. You can have your cake and eat it too. We just need to leverage the right tools to get there.
That is amazing, Courtney. I think this is a good place to transition into episode part B, or number 2 of this conversation. So for those of you listening and you want to dive into the marketing side, please make sure you follow the next episode.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please be sure to hit subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. The Woman Choosing Growth Show is not just another podcast. It's a tribe of women helping each other grow. So please share this podcast with all the women entrepreneurs that you would love to see succeed. If you'd like to know more about customized business advising through Cultivate Advisors, download business tools, or sign up for upcoming events, visit www.womenchoosinggrowth.com. Once again, that's www.womenchoosinggrowth.com. Remember, we are in this together. See you on the next one.